Welcome to the CFA Connections Plain Talk series. In this episode, I'm joined by NBAA Flight Attendant Committee co-chairs Julie Kozma and Lesley Revuelto, where we discuss the Corporate Flight Attendant Meetups and the 4 coordinated sessions taking place at NBAA BACE, which is the Business Aviation Convention and Exhibition in Las Vegas, October 17th, 18th, and 19th. Let's get started. Once again, this year I'm joined by NBAA Flight Attendant Committee co-chairs Julie Kozma and Lesley Revuelto. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me again.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
And
thanks for having us.
Yes, of course. And what I'd like to do is discuss the upcoming NBAA BACE 2023 taking place in Las Vegas, October 17th, 18th, and 19th. And I know through the committee, you have 4 coordinated sessions. So I'd like to discuss those as well as other events that are flight attendant focused. The convention is officially 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but there are pre and post events occurring. And I know on Monday you have an event taking place also, correct?
Right. Yeah. So on Monday from 1 to 5, it's a pre-convention event. It's the lead flight attendant managers meeting that we host. Last year was our first year doing it at BACE, and it has an additional fee since it is pre-conference. But this meeting is intended for current lead flight attendants, flight attendant supervisors, and managers. You know, for us to really get together and just share our common concerns, our common struggles that we have. And what I find so many times in this meeting is that you think you're all alone out there, but really you're not. And it's just a really nice time to be able to come together. We create an agenda, we ask for input, and what are your struggles right now? And, we share them at the table and try to help each other. You find out that people have, really great ideas of how they've solved anything from, conflicts to staffing to, doing standards, procedures, and things like that. So, so we do that the day before. Got a pretty good turnout so far. Seat space is limited because of the room size. And again, this is geared and intended for current lead flight attendants and managers. It's not necessarily a flight attendant meeting. So we do ask for people, to respect those parameters.
Well, it's more of a benchmarking meeting for lead managers because you're sharing best practices, internal best practices of your operation. So you can have that protective space to speak openly and confidentially with some subject matter.
Oh, definitely. And that is really the core of it as well, being able to be open and talk about things and learn from each other too. Some flight attendants have found themselves just into a lead manager's position, a lead flight attendant or a supervisory position. And there's not really a course for that. And sometimes we're going at this stuff alone. So I think that's the biggest thing I've heard through the years as I've not only hosted the meeting, but even been an attendee at this meeting is, oh my gosh, I thought it was just me. So it's a great space to come together and sort of lean on each other and, make connections. Many times we, connect afterwards. Hey, I remember you were talking about this, how's that working out? Or I'm going to implement this. Did you do that? So it's good stuff. So yeah, that'll be the day before.
On Monday. Okay. And then Tuesday, what do we have going on?
Tuesday morning, I'm starting with the coffee social again, like we did last year. It'll be 7 a.m. To 8 a.m. at the...
Sorry to interrupt, Lesley, but the location of the coffee social changed after our taping. It's now going to take place at the Residence Inn Convention Center, which is right across the street from the Las Vegas Convention Center.
And come join us. And basically, it's an opportunity to meet people who are going to be at this the convention and to sort of create your own groups to walk around with, so it's not so intimidating. It's a very big space. It can be frightening if you're by yourself. So this is an opportunity to come meet other flight attendants and sort of pair up with them and spend the rest of the day, or even then maybe the entire convention, and sort of find your people. That's kind of what this is all about.
Yeah, I remember last year people, some attendees, attended by themselves and went to this coffee social, and they weren't by themselves the rest of the conference. So they were able to team up with people, and they're still friends with them now too.
Absolutely.
And so, because like you said, this convention is quite overwhelming if you've never attended it before. It's massive and can be quite daunting, and having someone to journey through on the floor with is quite beneficial.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Excellent.
So that's happening Tuesday morning, 7 to 8 a.m.
Okay. And then once the convention opens, there's going to be a meetup event for flight attendants at the NBAA exhibit booth.
Yeah, that'll be at the connection zone. So they have the keynote speaker each day at NBAA. There's big speaker that comes in the morning. I think that ends at 10. The convention floor doesn't open until after that. So once that finishes up at 10, the convention floor opens. There's an area on the floor. Generally, it's kind of off in the corner. It's called Connection Zone. So you'll just need to look at the maps for that. And we will have our meetup there at 10:30. And it's just sort of a way to bring the flight attendant, flight technicians group together. We'll make a quick introduction, introduce the committee members. I do think we have a pretty good amount of our committee who is going to be at base this year, which is good. We'll do a quick introduction to tell everyone what we have planned. The 4 sessions that the flight attendant committee has worked on. Also kind of give everyone and let them know about vendors and demos that will be there. We have a lot of people, even if you are not new to the industry, a lot of people don't always know the names of the vendors that supply us, whether it's, furnishings, bedding, safety equipment and things like that. So we'll do that. Les, I think we're planning a quick introduction of our scholarship winners. We had 36 scholarships this year, so we'll have a quick little introduction there. And then it's just a little meet and greet at that time. Some people have emailed, some people hear each other's names. It's good to kind of refresh with friends, right? You run into someone, you're like, hey, I think I saw you last year and stuff like that. So it's kind of a good way to bring the whole group together and get things started. And then also give people a little bit of guidance, especially for people this year who maybe it's their first time, that they didn't experience it last year.
I'd like to run through the app and kind of talk on how to use the NBAA app to their advantage, how to build a schedule for themselves, take a look at the map and sort of orientate themselves to maybe if they find the connection zone. Then, last year I spent an hour running around trying to find somebody and try to find a booth. So just sort of kind of help them use the app to their benefit and to build their
app is a great asset, and a lot of people don't realize how beneficial. And it is so thorough, and you can create your own timeline of for sessions, and plus you can flag all the exhibitors that you want to see, and it maps them. So yeah, especially in Vegas, because it's in 2 separate halls and you don't want to be going up and down and over constantly. So
well, and also for presenters, if you attend a session, a lot of times the presentation will be able to be downloaded as a PDF. Oh, yeah. So instead of frantically taking notes through a session, it's nice to be able to download the presentation and review it at your own leisure. So that makes it a nice tool as well.
There's a total of 4 coordinated sessions, 2 each day. And the first one is at 1 o'clock on Tuesday. And that's high quality short flight catering.
Yeah, so I'll start with that one, Les, because my group, so on the BASE subcommittee, we worked on these sessions. And we wanted to come out, basically what our strategy is with our sessions at BASE is to try to zone in on 2 catering/service type sessions, and then our other 2 sessions, with safety, professional development. So some of the ideas that the committee came up with, and this was one when we got talking about, the struggles, catering sessions that really could apply to everyone, not just new flight attendants and not just experienced flight attendants, for example. So short flights, that's something that, we all deal with. And how do you manage that when you have say perhaps a heavy passenger load, it's an hour and a half, you've got a plane full of business people who need to work, but they need to eat at the same time, going from one meeting to the next. So we wanted to think like, look, how could we get some ideas on, how to make that better, something new, something creative? What are the new trends out there, right? Whether maybe it's using baskets or small trays, or ideas on how to, maybe pre-plate. And our focus was, many people talked about, those short plates where you've got your business people on board with laptops working, but they still need to eat at the same time, right? There's not time for that formal tray placemat, that kind of thing. Or even say, for example, on smaller planes, right? Maybe you don't have a lot of capability on these smaller planes and heavy loads. So it's a lot more challenging. So that was what we're going to do for our first catering session. And we do hope that, that'll really speak to the entire flight attendant population, not just new, not just middle, not just experienced. So that's session number 1. And for those that were there last year, our sessions, we had some on the floor and some upstairs. This year, it's going to be easy. It will be in one of the meeting rooms, and the sessions will take place in the same meeting room both days. So that'll kind of simplify things a little bit.
So from 2:30 to 3:30, you have Inflight Lithium Ion Battery Fires 2023 edition.
So we've been very lucky this year. We will have Ben Supko from the FAA, who is the Executive Director of Hazardous Materials. We'll have Ross Faith, who is Vice President of Spectrum FX. And we'll have Dr. Alves, MedAir Global Health. So the three of them will discuss the implications and I guess the effects that lithium battery fires can have in flight, from the emergency side all the way through the medical situations that can come up when you're exposed to smoke from a lithium battery fire burning materials. So this should be a very interesting discussion, not only for flight attendants, but for entire aviation.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Sure.
So because the beginning of this year, there were 2 lithium battery fires within a 4-month period, the beginning of the first of the year, where 3 to 4 flight attendants were injured and trying to put the fire out. And the material that they had to work with was water and halon. And so we're introducing a product that will be talked about that can help assist the flight attendant in extinguishing that thermal runaway. So that will be brought up as well.
Okay, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, and part of this too, this big discussion is I think since Lesley really got into this, and then she got me all fired up onto it, no pun intended, but really got going with it. And I was very lucky that the COO with NBAA, Chris Rushlow, who comes from the FAA, I reached out to him for a source, to say, Chris, do you know anyone who could help us with this? So Ben is, he was jumped on it right away because that's his passion. But there's a lot of misconception out there about these fires. They're not just a typical fire. And if you don't have the proper training or a little bit of insight on how to tackle these things, your window of opportunity is really small. And not only do you involve the fire, which an in-flight fire in itself is probably the worst thing any of us could come up against, but now you're talking about some really serious injuries on top of that at the same time. And it's especially important for so many airplanes out there that don't have a cabin crew member back there. You really need to be aware of training your passengers almost at the same time. So it's pretty important. So we really got into it, and I think this is going to be a really good session. It's so relevant for where we are today.
Very relevant. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So that'll be from 2:30 to 3:30, and we feel really lucky to have Ben and Ross and Dr. Alves with MedAir to come help us on this one.
Valid points, because a lot of people may know the extinguishing factor, but it goes much more than that with lithium, because you have to cool down the cells because it just keeps reigniting and each one gets more explosive. But I think it's when complacency just sets in because we don't hear about it. We don't hear about these issues, and people just and depending on which training vendor they go to, how thoroughly they're trained for that expectation. Because like you said, Julie, in-flight fire and the smoke event, it's got to be one of the most highly stressful experiences to have in flight. And because you're in flight, you have to fight the fire. You have no choice. On the ground,
Mhm.
get your butts off the plane. Let someone else deal with it. In the air, you're dealing with it.
Yeah,
Well,
and you don't have a lot of time to stop and think about it. So, and then also too, there's a lot, we have our Halon obviously, but there are a lot of products out there, fire containment devices that are out there, but a lot of misconception with that. You don't just put it, first of all, you don't handle it, period. But secondly, you don't just pop that burning device into that containment, there's into that and then say, oh, that's the problem solved.
That's
So
it.
those
Done.
devices certainly are a piece of the equation, but they don't take the full
So
answer.
now, Wednesday from 1 to 2, you have avoiding hangry passengers. So last minute catering solutions. I'm really
Yep.
fascinated with
So,
this one.
yeah, well, I think actually, I think the two of us got talking about that one day. But yeah, so with that, we thought last minute catering solutions. This is something we got talking about actually, because this is on my airplane all the time. Last minute changes, going to big events, for example, things like Davos or the Super Bowl and things like that. What do you do in your departure time? Bumps up a day, it goes back a day. Something happens and you have last minute, your catering can't help you. For example, at some of these big events, you're locked in and they can't accommodate it for obvious reasons, right? Everyone's at the Super Bowl, everyone's at these big, huge events. You think you're going to have one passenger, and now suddenly you find out you have 10. So, what are some ideas to help you recover from that if you need to make that run to the supermarket and come up with ideas? Now you're forced to self cater, for example. The departure time changes, you were going to cater from the restaurant, now you can't do that. So this is again another catering aspect of catering that every flight attendant and flight technician will encounter, not just new, seasoned, middle of the road. So try to give us some ideas for those go-to items that really can give us the most bang for our buck when we are in a jam and we have to change course quickly. So I think that is, and I'm hoping that we'll also see from them maybe some templates on shopping list, right? Those emergency 911 shopping lists that you can maybe store it in your phone so that when you do get that call and you're in that panic mode, you walk into the store and you walk in and you say, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to buy. Where do I start? So, and time is of the essence. So yeah, I think that I'm hoping that people will enjoy that session and find it really, really useful. So,
And then the last session of Wednesdays at 2:30 to 3:30, confidently make decisions to elevate your career.
Heidi Cole will come in from London and talk about how to develop confidence in yourself to be able to present on the airplane a calm presentation, a calm persona, and especially how to deal when you have mishaps on the aircraft and how that can make or break a flight or make or break a career, and how to be able to work through those bumps in the road and successfully complete a flight.
We set the tone with our confidence, and I mean, things could just totally go sideways, but how you handle that in flight with your clients, that will make the entire difference, because they're not going to remember okay catering or an okay flight. They're going to remember the whole experience, and it exudes from us. We're the ambassadors in flight and have the most face time with the clients, so we can make or break their experience. And I think if you're not confident, I think people can see through that.
And I think a lot of it too, and I've been talking to some of the more junior flight attendants, they get sort of sucked into looking at the Instagram and all the posts, and they see these beautiful things. And that may not necessarily be the case in flight. A lot of that is all very much staged. And so if you're trying to focus on that and present something that's not authentically you, as what Heidi likes to say, then that comes across right away, instead of just focusing and improving your skill and what you know. And there's nothing wrong with trying to elevate a career or elevate a service, but to try to do it in your steps and in your development, and not try to necessarily step further out of your skill set. And so it's all about developing that within your time frame and your personality, which will make a more authentic comfortable experience for the flight and for the passenger. I think Heidi Cole's session will be well attended, and I think it can pertain to not only flight attendants, but anybody in our industry.
Couldn't agree more. She's a fabulous speaker. I mean, she's just very captivating and very, very good at this. So I'm looking forward to that session. And then Thursday, you're doing a debrief committee meeting, and that's open to the public as well.
Yeah, on Thursday from 10 to 12, we do a post-base committee meeting, and it's open to the public, open to anyone. We talk about how things went, the good, the bad, the ugly, what worked well, what didn't work well, feedback that we might get from people, things like that, things that we saw that maybe could, somewhere else that could translate to us. Also, that meeting is open to anyone who is interested in joining the flight attendant committee. We have some people this year who are retiring, I guess you could say, or timing out on their service. So if you find yourself at base and joining the flight attendant committee is something that you think you might be interested in, we invite you to join us on Thursday morning. Again, it's open to everyone. You can sit in and kind of see a little bit what it's about. Some of it gives us a chance to meet you and have a little bit of FaceTime and, kind of tell you really what we do, because we are sort of this little behind the scenes group here, doing these things for the community. And in addition to, BASE is just not the only thing that we do all year. We are called upon when the opportunity arises to do different articles, to express and share our perspective and point of view in, whether it's news articles, that relate to cabin crew, trying to get the word out. Once again, we said it again last year, we're going to say it now, that having a cabin crew member, should really be considered a best practice on an aircraft. It's not just about the service, even though that's what most people think about us all the time. So we do welcome anyone that's, interested or even just wants to see what we're all about. Or even if you just want to join the meeting to hear all the inside scoop, come join us Thursday at 10.
Excellent. Thank you so much.